my name is Liz Haberberger, and I am from St. Louis, Missouri.
And what was it like growing up? Did you have siblings, parents?
Yes. So I grew up actually right across the river in St. Charles, and I was the oldest of 7 girls. So I have 6 younger sisters. Mom was stay-at-home mom, and dad was always off working. To say there was never a dull moment is an accurate statement. I mean, we were constantly like either doing activities around the house, crafts, the amount of games that we would play outside on the trampoline. But then even just, I was very into sports. So I would play basketball, volleyball, gymnastics, and then would, also get my sisters to come play those things. But growing up, it was a blast. It wasn't always easy having 6 sisters to share things with, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, that's a super unique dynamic. A lot of like feminine energy probably going on in there.
Oh, 100%.
Where did you stand out amongst the sisters?
Gosh, where did I stand out? I was definitely the leader. I was always the one where if mom had to go run to the grocery store, it's like, Elizabeth, watch the siblings. Or I would take it upon myself to like organize a game for us to play and give everybody their jobs. And, I was definitely kind of the one who would corral people more often than not, I would say.
And how did that translate growing up? So where did those traits start to show themselves as you got older?
I think there's definitely some element of probably leadership there, being able to convince them. There's probably also I've got a lot of, if you've done Gallup 5 strengths, woo or persuasiveness. My dad was in sales, so I took a lot of that from him. But being able to convince my sisters, maybe if I was supposed to do some cleaning and I didn't want to do said cleaning, I would try to see if I could convince them to help take some of that. I also think another thing that it instilled in me was just a sense of like team building, and that we is often better than me. So I could do something on my own, but it was so much better to have my sisters around me, or have other people around you to help you work towards something than to try to do something on your own. So I think I learned team building. And the other one I would say is almost this sense of selflessness or humility. I didn't always get what I wanted growing up. I couldn't have everything that I wanted. And there would be times when it was like, hey, like, okay, we can't have all of this, but gosh, look at what we do have. And, taking the little opportunities to make my sister look good or let someone else do something, just learning that the world does not revolve around me. There are other people who are just as important and just as valuable in their own unique ways. I think is definitely something that I took. My parents instilled that in me for sure.
And did you have any challenges, maybe in leadership, maybe elsewhere growing up? Like what were some things that maybe developed you and gave you adversity?
So I think I've always had a very strong sense of grit and drive and achievement. Like, I remember from a very young age, whether I was playing basketball, doing gymnastics, I was on the speech team. Like, I wanted to be the best at everything I did. And I don't know if that was like my way of standing out from, just being the one with the big family, but like I wanted to be the best at everything I did. And, I didn't get to go play on all the select teams that I wanted to do and, go get a private coach. But man, if I really wanted something, I was going to put in the work in order to, be able to accomplish or win or be whatever it was. Like, I wanted to be successful in everything that I did. I did not want to be second or third. Like, I wanted to be number one at everything.
And so with that, what was the first standout like victory that you had in life that translated that over?
So one that jumps out, I was probably in 8th grade, 7th grade or 8th grade. I had been on the speech team at school for the last couple years, and there was a girl in my class, Lauren and I, we would always do humorous duets. We were very good at them. We got like the gold ribbons, every time. And I remember my dad saying to me, he said, you should do one by yourself and do a serious speech. And I was like, no, like, I can't do that. Like, I'm good at this thing. I don't think I'd be good at this one. And he, kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I finally said, okay, like, I'll try it. And I remember sitting downstairs in my room, just like reading that thing over and over and over so that I could like memorize it and think about the best way to say it. And sure enough, I went and I also got a gold ribbon. And I remember being so proud of that because I literally thought, I'm like, well, all I can do is this. I know I'm good at this. And so for me to say, well, I've never done this before, but I was willing to try that and to know that, hey, I didn't know if I could do it and I could. That was like one that jumps out at me as something that I was really proud of.
And it sounds like you, if I were to ask you the question, do you hate to lose more or love to win more? It sounds like you would say, I love to win more. Is that true?
I think I probably hate to lose more than I love to win. I've always had really high expectations for myself. And to me, it's almost more like I let myself down because if I think I can do really well, I want to do really well. And it's not even the disappointment of other people that's harder. I think it's when you disappoint yourself. Those are the hardest ones to take. And so for me, I would say I would rather not lose.
And so as far as that confidence goes, let's take you to, college age, whatever it may be. Were you pretty confident in college as well? Like, did that stick with you?
I mean, is anyone all that confident of themselves in college? Right? You're trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do. There were definitely aspects of my life where I was like, yes, I know this is what I want to do. I loved coaching. I coached competitive gymnastics. Loved that. I ended up switching my major. I was going to be a marketing major and then realized that I loved working with these kids and like helping them learn and grow. So I switched my major to be education. And I was like super confident. Yes, that's the direction that I want to go. I didn't know exactly how it would all turn out, but I would say there were definitely some things where I was really confident. And then there's others, right, where you're still trying to figure out like, why do I like this thing? Or do I like this thing? Or do I have a different skill set that maybe I'm not using yet? So I'd say in some aspects, yes. And others, you're still trying to figure it out.
Was there anything you had learned about leadership, as the oldest sister? Was there anything new that these young, was it girls that you were teaching gymnastics to?
Yep.
How old were they?
They were probably anywhere from 7 to 14
okay.
that I was working with. I think one of the things that I learned from a leadership standpoint was that it takes intentional time and effort in order to stay connected with people. Once being the oldest, I went to college and I was the first one. So everybody else was still together and I wasn't there. And what I found was that if you don't make the effort to call, if you don't make the effort to take the trip home, or in the gym to find the girls outside of practice, or even in college, right? Like with some of your friends, if you don't make the effort to say, hey, let's go, why don't just the two of us, let's go grab lunch or go grab coffee. It's not that you can't be successful, but it's really hard to build a genuine, deep connection and relationship. It doesn't happen by chance. And so being intentional and doing things consistently that show people you care is really important.
You're in college and then you've switched from marketing to education. What happens after that?
Yeah, so I graduated with a degree in elementary education. I went and taught 4th grade for 4 years. And the whole reason I got into education, coaching gymnastics was not a college degree. So I figured that was the closest thing. And what I really wanted was to be able to teach kids two things. One, I was incredibly lucky to have parents who taught me about money and like, should I buy a brand new car? Should I buy Starbucks every day? And two was anything about people. You know, I assumed everybody could sit down and have a conversation with someone and build a relationship with them and have friends. And I realized that that is not quite the case. So I got into education because I wanted to do that. But then when I got into education, I couldn't do that. They wanted, you know, just teach math and just teach the writing, and you don't have time to do this creative stuff. So then I thought, okay, well, I got to get out of this. When you go into teaching, you know, there's really only one job for you, like teacher. You can pick, do you want to work in a big school or a small school? But like, you're a teacher. So I had this whole, okay, well, what am I even qualified to do? How does that work? I had never been in the business world before. And sure enough, St. Louis is a small town. So, you know, it's like friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who happened to work at Dale Carnegie. And I got connected with them. And the first thing I remember them saying was, well, it's kind of like teaching, but it's for adults and it's all soft skill stuff. And we had my son at the time. We knew we were going to have another kid. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll work part-time. Like, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. I loved that. So I went to the interview for Dale Carnegie, and they said, like, oh, we love you. The only thing is, the only role we have is part-time. It's not full-time. And I thought, well, maybe this is perfect. So I got into the business in 2015. And I remember sitting in my first Dale Carnegie course and just watching the guy in front of the room. And within 2 minutes, he had a room of 25 adults just captured. And over the next 8 weeks, you start really learning about people's stories, and you start hearing about some of the changes that people have made and the things that they're doing differently and the relationships that are different and their confidence. And I thought, oh my God, I want to do that. I was like, I want to be the one to do that for people. So I went through and became a certified Dale Carnegie trainer. Once I became a trainer, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing all of these things. When I'm working with clients, like, I want to be able to then go talk to the clients. So then I got into sales, started working with clients. I bought into the business 3 years later, and I had a partner in the business, John Sedgwick, who is one of the best human beings I know, smartest business people. And the whole reason I got into the ownership was because he was there. I'm like, what do I know about running a business? I'm a 4th grade teacher. I can't do this. But I'm like, he's the business guy. He knows what he's doing. So I remember when he then started talking about selling the whole business. And I thought, well, that was not the deal. Like, you said you were going to be here. And we went back and forth. And I tried to tell him, no, like, I can't own a business. I don't know anything about owning a business. And I will never forget the day we were sitting down at Breadco, just having a coffee. And I had told my husband the night before, I'm like, I know he's going to ask me again if I want to buy the business. And I'm telling him, like, I'm done. Don't ask anymore. I don't want to buy the business. And so we sat down, and sure enough, right, he brings up like the fact that he wants to sell the business. And he said, Liz, there's 2 choices. He said, 1, you can buy it. He said, 2, we're going to sell it to someone else. And he goes, if we sell it to someone else, they're not going to get rid of you. Like, you're not going to go anywhere. You're really valuable in this business. And then he said, but what I can't guarantee you is that that person is not going to say, hey, I need your butt in that chair at 8 a.m. And you get 2 weeks of vacation now, and you have to ask me when you want to take them. And oh, by the way, here's a new quota that you have to hit. And it literally was like in that moment that I thought, oh no, I would rather try it on my own and fail than let someone else dictate how I was going to, lead or run this business or be successful. And so I bought the business in January of 2020 in St. Louis. And then we expanded out to Kansas City, and we bought the Kansas City territory in 21. And then 4 years later, here we are.